wonderful year 2023 has been. My biggest year in wrestling ever, based on the amount of shows that I attended, based on traveling internationally for it. I've got a Chelsea, a post right there. I'm a diehard football fan, and this is the year I can say I officially completely let football slip by the wayside and prioritized wrestling as my sports entertainment medium of choice. I've loved every moment of it. Look, the two things I want to touch on are, I'm going to focus a bit on WWE and a bit on AEW, and I'm going to try and not get too negative. I also want to apologize for not being able to be there in person. Joys of being a father of a 2-year-old and having a second child on the way. Things are tough, but I want to share some of my feelings with the ministry. So on the WWE front, look, good, bad, and ugly, because have they put on a single match this year that I'm going to remember? No. There's, by their own admission, I don't think they're a wrestling company, even though they like to say they are. They are first and foremost a content creation company. They sell moments, and the moments I do remember. So to that end, they've done their job well. The Civil War at Money in the Bank was epic. John Cena coming out at Money in the Bank was epic. Being at WrestleMania was incredible. I'm not going to say otherwise. That'll stay with me forever. Bolstered by how good a holiday I had with Ben the Tech. And I had a really good time at Mania. I've never been shy about explaining how much I think Cody Rhodes not winning is one of the worst creative decisions I have ever seen. The only way that can be validated is if Roman doesn't lose at this year's Mania, because if that's the case, if he fights Cody again, Cody will never be as white hot as he was last year. He'll be big, obviously, but he won't be as white hot as he was last year. And if it's just for the sake of winning it at Mania 40 and not hitting another landmark record, what's the point? If Roman holds it beyond Mania 40 and beats Hogan's record, okay, now I start to see the logic behind it. Let's let this one play out. But if Roman loses at Mania 40, I will double down even harder on the fact that him retaining at Mania 39 was a mistake. The rest of Mania 39, though, was incredible. From the spectacle of the Rey and Dom match, seeing a Hell in a Cell match live, that was amazing. Seeing how bad the American fans are, not even knowing the words to Metalingus. Like, y'all are embarrassing. But seeing John Cena open Mania, seeing an amazing women's match with Charlotte and Rhea, seeing that, tag team main event, I think it's overrated. I think people are putting it a little bit too high, but it was still freaking great. I had a blast with it. And let's be real. Hell froze over in two ways when it comes to WWE, because Vince McMahon resigned in disgrace. No, he did not retire. Stop giving him that credit. He resigned in disgrace, then tried to pull a coup and work his way back in through Endeavor, and Den and I were there firsthand to see the sights of that on the Raw after WrestleMania when he had full creative control back, and boy was it a bad show. But you know what? There's a lot of hope I have for WWE. Triple H is very guilty of making some of the same mistakes that Vince McMahon does, which is predictable booking for the sake of making the big moment. That just might be the company ethos. I do maintain Triple H is a vastly overrated booker and hasn't really done anything to set the world alight other than doing the bare minimum, which was not being done before. So my favorite term, grading on a curve. But what Triple H has done that I got to give him credit for is that I can't remember, maybe since even, say the words with me, the Attitude Era, when you had Rock, Stone Cold, Taker, all these guys at the top. There's a lot of top guys now. You got Cody, you got Gunther, You could push Damian Priest. You got LA Knight. Solo Sikoa's about to have a massive push, I believe. Bron Breakker's about to come in. Randy Orton's a top guy again. You've, of course, got Roman at the top. CM Punk is at the top again. So hell froze over because we're actually living in a WWE world which has got zero influence by Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I never thought I'd see the day. Has the product got better? Yeah, it has. I will go to another Mania, for sure. Probably one in the UK, because I don't want to be flying transatlantic to get screwed over like I did at Mania 39. But the product is definitely better, and for the first time since the Attitude Era, they've got a load of top guys. They're doing stables again, which is really interesting. The tag team scene is hot again. Male tag team scene. Female tag team scene still needs work. And the second way hell froze over was CM Punk. Like, Jesus. I don't like it. I think that it's been quite poorly mismanaged, and a lot of people now are going to scream, AJ notably, I imagine, will scream, it's the AEW fan in you. Partly. Because I think him leaving AEW has left that company with quite a substantial problem. But keeping it WWE, Punk in WWE makes things interesting. I don't think he's going to see out his 3-year contract. I think this is all going to end in tears. But I'm here for the chaos. So all in all, when you look at the fact that we've got an Agent of Chaos, we look at the fact that we've got a lot of top guys again, we look at the fact that they've got a chance to beat the Hogan record with Roman holding beyond Mania 40, which he should. It's all interesting. It still doesn't deliver. Drew McIntyre, another top guy. Jesus, I forgot him. The hope that Sheamus might finish as a Grand Slam champ. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. They still don't put on banger matches, but they do sell their moments well. And we got a lot of top guys selling a lot of top moments. So this might shock a lot of people, but I'm actually going to say well done, WWE. You've kept me mildly to moderately entertained throughout the year. And the big moments I have appreciated. So kudos. I'm going to do AEW in another video. And so let's talk about AEW in 2023. Seems like I've now got to play the defense card, because everyone seems to be saying AEW is now trash. It's the worst promotion in the world. Every negative name under the sun. I don't get it. I don't get it. Does AEW have the narrative focus that it did in the summer of 2020 or 2021? No, definitely not. Is it suffering from having too big a roster, being bloated? Yes, 100%. And I think you're going to start seeing some contracts not be renewed, which might be the smart thing to do. I don't know what the AEW solution is. I'll be the first to say the product is not as hot narratively as it was a few years ago. I'll also be the first to say that AEW are now never catching WWE, ever. It's never going to happen. That ship, and I know, listen, if there was ever a year to say never in wrestling, 2023 would be it. But from an economics point of view, that WWE have now gained too much of a head start. 2 years ago, when Vince was still ruling the roost and when AEW was at its absolute zenith, I would have said, be careful Monday Night Raw, because Dynamite's coming. You can't say that now. The gap is just too big and the fandom is so clearly divided in favor of WWE that it's never going to happen. AEW is and I think that's fine. It doesn't need to be the top promotion in the world. It can very clearly identify itself as the super indie, as the second big company, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just needs to now stop trying to piggyback off of Raw, stop the war. The war's lost, WWE won, if there ever was a war. Do your thing. And what AEW do well, and this is where the defense comes in, and they have continued to do in 2023, is incredible matches. Just incredible matches. We've seen the rise of Maxwell Jacob Friedman to generation-defining superstar. The bravado and the shoots and the promos have now all materialized into being a reality. This guy is certified. He's one of the best working today. Big Tone said off air a few weeks ago, like you almost have to classify him in a category of his own, such as his prowess at what he does. He can do everything. People have finally seen how good he is in the ring. And it doesn't matter if he's a heel or a kind of antagonistic scumbag face. He's also shown he can work both angles. He's shown that he can work from a position of cowardice. He's shown that he can work from a position of power, of manipulation. The guy can do it all. And what I've loved is that along the way, he's been in some of the best matches I've ever seen. I will die on this hill alone if I have to. His Iron Man match with Bryan Danielson is the best Iron Man match I've ever seen. Compare that to, I don't know, something like, was it Backlash when Triple H and Shawn Michaels had their Iron Man match? Go and watch that match in 2004. They spend 45 minutes just lying on the ground. Bryan Danielson and MJF, and those are two of the best ever. Bryan Danielson and MJF for 60 minutes told a compelling story where you were put in a position of how the hell is MJF going to win this one? And it was non-stop action. It was unreal what those two did. One of, if not the best fatal four-way matches I've ever seen. The Four Pillars match was poorly booked, it was rushed, but the match they delivered, Jesus wept. And then you talk about, wait, let's stay on track with Danielson and the Zack Sabre Jr. match. I think you can, that to my knowledge, that's the only 5-star match this year. And then the hardcore matches, like they just go and go and go. Hangman and Moxley in their hardcore match, and then you think they can't get worse than that. And then you see the stadium stampede, the spaghetti in the hair again with Moxley. It's like, well, you can't get worse than that. Well, you can. Hangman became a full-on vampire because his match with Swerve Strickland, I would say arguably one of, if not the greatest, well, certainly most hardcore on the big stage. I'm not talking GCW here, but hardcore Texas death matches I've ever seen. Man drank another man's blood. You want to talk a moment? That's a moment that's never going to be forgotten. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. So while suffering from extreme narrative fatigue and lack of direction and a bloated roster, they have still, when backed up against the wall, managed to put on some stellar matches. Great surprises too. You know, the arrival of Adam Copeland. They've quietly gone about reinvigorating careers. Look at Athena on Ring of Honor. Well, I know, different promotion, but under the same umbrella, yes? They're really doing some very interesting things. I think the reason there's this continued narrative around them, through some fault of their own, notably Tony Khan, is this illusion that the war is still on. The war is done. If you look at AEW as a separate entity, as just the second promotion, nothing more than that, not trying to compete with WWE, just the second promotion, it's so exciting. Weekly, it's the one show I'll tune into religiously and not miss without fail. I won't miss a pay-per-view. In an ideal world, I'll watch the pay-per-view live. It's just hours and hours and hours of entertainment. The wrestling on display is just epic. And then, you know, people like, you know, they've got great factions too. Bullet Club Gold, they've got a compelling narrative going on at the moment with the Devil. That the Continental Classic was an amazing tournament. There are negatives, but the positives are so outweighing that for me. Just let's be clear, they are now, without question, not in contention with WWE anymore. And they should stop being positioned as if they're challenging, because they ain't. And so let's talk about, you know, the big Wembley sellout. All in. That, were it not for TNA, which AJ and I went to, meeting some of our heroes firsthand, AJ Leon and I went to, meeting some of our heroes firsthand. All Out would be my pay-per-view of the year. It was just great match after great match after great match. I don't remember there being any filler. Just considering how badly booked it was, considering there were negatives like Kenny Omega not being in a singles match, there was, not capitalizing on Takeshita's double win over Kenny that just ended up leading to absolutely nothing. What preceded and what proceeded All Out left a lot to be desired. But in terms of how well-paced and balanced that pay-per-view was, oh man, it was good. Jesus, it was good. There's something incredibly healthy about being in an arena that size with that many people all loving the same thing, be it a WrestleMania, an All Out, or even in something small like the Walker Dome. Wrestling makes me happy. And I think the top of that happiness is AEW. So that's my thoughts on 2023. It's been a damn good year.